Please, mister. My mommy said if she didn't come back, I had to find the men with the eagle. The little girl's voice cracked as she held out a trembling hand. Her sneakers were caked in mud. Her hoodie was 2 sizes too big. And her eyes, those huge, terrified blue eyes, locked onto Ray's face like he was the last man on earth. Behind her, the sun was dying. In front of her, 40 leather-clad bikers went dead silent. Ray's beer hit the gravel. Before we go further, friends, please tap that subscribe button, hit the bell, and stay with this story to the very end. And drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from right now so I can see just how far this little girl's story has traveled. Now, let me tell you what happened that evening in a small town in Arizona. Ray Callahan had been coming to the Iron Eagle Saloon for 22 years, and in all that time, he had never once seen a child walk through that parking lot. Not once. Kids didn't come to the Iron Eagle. Mothers crossed the street to avoid it. Preachers prayed about it from their pulpits 3 blocks down. The town of Jasper Creek, Arizona population, 4,200, had decided a long time ago that the low brick building with the faded eagle painted above the door was the kind of place decent folks pretended didn't exist. So when Ray heard the soft scuff of small sneakers on gravel behind him, he thought one of the boys had dropped something. He turned around, a cold beer in his hand, expecting to see Mason or Tank or maybe Diesel's dog. Instead, he saw her. A little girl, blonde hair tangled like she hadn't brushed it in 2 days. A gray hoodie with a torn pocket hanging half off. Sneakers that used to be white, and a piece of folded paper gripped so tight in her tiny fist that her knuckles had gone bone white. Ray froze. The other bikers, about 40 of them, scattered across the lot, smoking, laughing, leaning against their Harleys, noticed one by one. Conversations died. Engines idling in the distance stopped sounding like thunder and started sounding like whispers. The girl took 1 step forward, then another. Her eyes flickered from face to face, searching, measuring, terrified. She stopped about 6 feet from Ray. "Mister," she whispered, "can you spare some change?" Ray opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Tank, a 6'4" mountain of a man with a gray beard down to his chest, lowered the cigarette he was about to light. "Well, I'll be damned," he muttered. "Where'd she come from?" someone behind Ray asked. "Don't know. She just walked up." "Where's her mama?" "Don't know that either." Ray set his beer down slowly on the hood of the truck beside him. He crouched, not fast, not slow, the way a man crouches when he's trying to coax a frightened animal closer without scaring it away. "Hey there, sweetheart," he said, keeping his voice low and even. "What's your name?" The girl's lower lip quivered. "Emily," she said. "Emily, that's a real pretty name." Ray rested his elbows on his knees. "How old are you, Emily?" She held up 5 small fingers. Then she lowered one. Then she put it back up, like she wasn't entirely sure. 5, she said finally. 5 years old. Got it. Ray nodded slowly. "Emily, honey, where's your mama?" And that's when the girl's whole face crumpled. Not crying, not yet. Just that awful, silent crumpling that grown men know is worse than crying, the kind of face a child makes when something has broken inside her and she's holding it together with Scotch tape and prayer. "She didn't come back," Emily whispered. Ray felt his stomach drop. "She said she'd come back," Emily continued, her voice getting smaller and smaller. "She said wait in the motel. She said don't open the door. She said if she didn't come back before the sun went down." The little girl lifted the piece of paper she'd been clutching. "She said give this to the men with the eagle." Ray looked at the paper. He looked at the eagle painted above the door of the bar. He looked at the girl. And behind him, without saying a word, every single biker in that parking lot moved closer. Not in a threatening way, in a way that said, "We're listening now." Ray reached out slowly. "Can I see that note, sweetheart?" Emily hesitated. For a moment, Ray thought she was going to pull it back, thought maybe her mother had told her, "Don't trust anyone, don't give it to anyone." "Hold on tight," but then her small fingers uncurled and the paper passed from her hand to his. Ray unfolded it. The handwriting was rushed, slanted. Some of the letters bled where tears had fallen on the paper before the ink dried. "If I'm not back by sundown, go to the bar with the eagle sign. Walk. Don't run. Don't talk to anyone else. They'll know what to do. Tell them Sophie sent you. Tell them he found us. Tell them he found us." Ray read it twice, then a third time. His jaw tightened so hard he heard his own teeth grind. He didn't know anyone named Sophie. He didn't know who he was. But he knew deep down in the place where men know things without being told that this little 5-year-old girl standing in front of him had walked to this parking lot on her own, by herself, in a town where any number of things could have happened to her between wherever she'd come from and here. And somebody somewhere had been counting on these men. Mason, Ray said quietly without turning his head. Yeah, Ray. Come here. Mason was a younger man, maybe 35, with a reddish beard and eyes the color of river water. He walked up calmly, read the note over Ray's shoulder, and said nothing for a long moment. Then he said, Ray, I see it. Do you know a Sophie? No. Me neither. Anybody here know a Sophie? Ray said louder, now turning his head slightly. The bikers shifted, shook their heads, murmured no. Tank. Never heard the name. Diesel, no boss. Ray looked back at the little girl. She was watching him the way a drowning kid watches a lifeguard, like he was the only person in the world who could save her, and she was terrified he wouldn't try. Emily, Ray said gently, your mama ever been to this bar before? The girl shook her head. Does she know anybody here? Another head shake. Then why? Ray paused, choosing his words carefully. Why did she send you here, honey? Emily looked at the ground, her little shoulders hunched up near her ears. Because of the sign, she whispered. The sign, the eagle. Ray frowned. The eagle on the bar, Emily nodded. Then she slowly pulled up the sleeve of her oversized hoodie, the right sleeve revealing a skinny little forearm, and on the inside of her wrist, in faded blue pen, someone had drawn a small, careful eagle, identical to the one on the front of the bar. Ray went cold from his boots to his scalp. Who drew that on you, sweetheart? Mommy. When this morning, before she left. Did she tell you what it meant? Emily nodded again very slowly. She said if I ever got lost, or if bad people came, or if she didn't come back, I should find the eagle. She said the eagle would protect me. Her voice caught. She said the eagle would bring her home. Ray stared at that small wrist for a long time. Then he stood up. He didn't say a word. He just stood up, turned around, and looked at 40 grown men in leather vests and denim, men with prison records and war records, and the kind of scars most people only see in movies, and every single one of them was standing perfectly still waiting. Brothers, Ray said, and his voice was low and quiet and terrible. We got work to do. Inside the Iron Eagle, the owner, a woman named Darlene, who'd poured Ray his first legal beer on his 21st birthday, came out from behind the bar the second she saw the little girl. Oh, my Lord, Darlene said, her hand flying to her mouth. Oh, sweet baby. Come here. Emily didn't move. Darlene stopped 3 feet away. She was a woman who understood children the way some people understand horses. Slow, careful, no sudden movements. I'm Darlene, honey. You hungry? Emily looked up at Ray. Ray nodded. It's okay, sweetheart. Darlene's a friend. The little girl allowed herself to be led to a booth. Darlene brought her a glass of milk, a plate of French fries, and a grilled cheese sandwich cut into 4 perfect little triangles. Emily stared at the food like she didn't quite believe it was real. Eat, baby, Darlene said softly. You eat as much as you want. While the girl ate slowly at first, then faster like she was suddenly remembering she was starving, Ray pulled Mason and Tank outside into the parking lot. All right, Ray said. What do we know? Not enough, Tank said. We know her mama's name is Sophie, Mason said. We know Sophie knew about us. We know Sophie thought we'd help. How would she know about us? Tank asked. Ray shook his head. That's what's bothering me. You think it's a setup? Mason asked. Ray thought about it. He thought about it hard. He'd been a biker long enough to know that the world was full of traps and that a little girl could be bait as easily as anything else. But then he thought about those huge, terrified blue eyes, that trembling hand, that tiny eagle drawn in blue pen on a wrist no bigger around than his thumb. No, Ray said, that's no setup. Then what? Then somewhere in this town, Ray said slowly, there's a woman named Sophie, and somebody's got her, and she sent her baby girl to us because she thought we were her last shot. Mason and Tank exchanged a look. Ray, Mason said carefully, that's a hell of an assumption. It's not an assumption, Ray said. Read the note again. He found us, not he found me, us. She's been running, her and the kid, running from somebody specific, long enough to plan. Long enough to teach a 5-year-old to walk to a bar with an eagle on it. But why us, Tank said. We don't know her. Ray was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, somebody told her about us. Who? Who? Don't know. But somebody did. Somebody told that woman that if she ever got into real trouble, she could send her daughter to the Iron Eagle, and the men here would do right by her. Ray, Mason said slowly, that's a lot of trust for a stranger to put in a bunch of bikers she's never met. I know, Ray said. What makes you so sure it's true? Ray looked back toward the bar. Through the front window, he could see Emily sitting in that booth, a milk mustache on her upper lip, one of her small sneakers swinging back and forth under the table because her legs didn't reach the floor. Because, Ray said quietly, if I was running for my life and I had a little girl and I had one shot to save her, I'd want to be right about who I was sending her to, too. There was a long silence. Then Tank cracked his knuckles, a sound like two rocks being smacked together, and said, what do you need, Ray? Ray turned toward him. I need every brother you can get on a phone in the next 10 minutes, he said. I don't care if they're eating dinner. I don't care if they're in the shower. I don't care if they're 300 miles away. Tell them a little girl walked into the Iron Eagle tonight and her mama is missing and we are going to find her. Tank nodded once. Consider it done. Mason, I want you to go back inside and sit with that baby. Gentle. No questions that scare her. Just be with her. She's scared out of her mind and she's trying so hard not to show it. Yeah, Ray. And somebody call Father Boone. Mason's eyebrows went up. The priest. You heard me. Ray Father Boone is 70 years old. He's also the one man in this town every woman who's ever been hit by her husband has trusted at one point or another, Ray said. If there's a Sophie in Jasper Creek who's been running from somebody, Father Boone knows her. Mason nodded slowly. On it. The three men stood there for another second. The sun was sinking behind the mountains. The parking lot was turning gold, then orange, then red. Ray, Tank said quietly, yeah. If we find this guy, the one who was after her. Ray didn't answer for a long moment. Then he said, we find him. We find him. We don't hurt him unless he makes us. We don't break the law unless we have to. But that little girl in there is going to go to bed tonight, knowing there are men in this world who will show up for her. Copy that. Now move. 10 minutes later, Ray walked back into the Iron Eagle. Emily had finished her grilled cheese. She was working on a second glass of milk. Darlene had given her a pink crayon in the back of a paper placemat, and the little girl was drawing slowly, carefully a picture of what looked like a house. Ray slid into the booth across from her. Hey, sweetheart. Hi. Can I ask you some questions? It's okay if you don't know the answers. Emily nodded, not looking up from her drawing. Where were you staying with your mama? A motel. Do you remember what it was called? Emily thought hard, her tongue poking out of the corner of her mouth. She squinted. The Sunset something. Sunset Inn. Yeah, that one. Ray nodded. He knew at a rundown place on the edge of town, the kind of motel where people paid in cash and nobody asked questions. And your mama went out this morning. Uh-huh. Did she say where she was going? Emily stopped coloring. To get bread, she whispered. Bread and peanut butter. She said she'd be right back. She said 15 minutes. Emily's lower lip started to tremble. That was a long time ago, mister. I know, honey, I know. She always comes back. I'm sure she does. She always comes back. Emily's eyes filled up, and she finally let one tear slide down her cheek. Ray reached across the table and very gently, with the huge weathered hand of a man who'd ridden motorcycles for 40 years and broken more bones than he could count, he took her tiny fingers in his. Emily, he said, I want you to listen to me, okay? She nodded. You did exactly what your mama told you to do. You understand me exactly right. You were brave, you were smart, and now there are a whole lot of men outside of this bar who are about to help me find your mama. We're gonna look everywhere. We're not gonna stop until we find her. Do you believe me? Emily stared at him and, why? She whispered. Ray frowned. Why what, honey? Why are you helping me? You don't know me. Ray was quiet for a second. Then he said, because somebody told your mama we would. Emily blinked. Do you know who? Ray asked gently. Do you know who told your mama about the Iron Eagle? Emily thought for a long moment. Then she said in a very small voice, Grandma Ruth. Ray went absolutely still. What did you say, Grandma Ruth? Emily repeated. Mommy said if we ever got in real trouble, find the Eagle Bar because that's where Grandma Ruth's boys would be. Ray's hand went cold around hers. Grandma Ruth's boys, he said slowly. Uh-huh. Darlene, who had been wiping down the bar near enough to overhear, dropped her rag. It hit the floor with a soft, wet slap. Ray, Darlene whispered. Ray didn't answer her. He was staring at the little girl across from him, and his face had gone the color of old paper. Emily, he said, and his voice had changed. Emily, honey, does your mama have a last name? Emily nodded. What is it, sweetheart? Callahan, the little girl said. Ray couldn't breathe. Sophie Callahan. Ray's own name, Ray's own last name. Ruth Callahan had been his mother. Ruth Callahan had been dead for 6 years. And somewhere in that small, dirty motel across town, or somewhere worse, was a woman named Sophie Callahan that Ray Callahan had never once in his life known existed. Ray sat there in the booth of the Iron Eagle Saloon, the 5-year-old's hand in his, and he finally quietly understood. Oh my God, Darlene breathed behind him. Ray turned his head very slowly and looked at the little blonde girl across the table. And for the first time, he really looked at her face. The shape of her chin, the curve of her nose, the stubborn little line of her mouth. He was looking at his mother's face. He was looking at his own face. Emily, Ray said, and his voice cracked right down the middle. Emily, sweetheart, can you tell me your mama's daddy's name? Do you know it? Emily frowned, trying to remember. Grandma Ruth said, her little forehead wrinkled. Grandma Ruth said his name was Ray. The glass in Darlene's hand hit the floor and shattered. Ray didn't hear it. Ray didn't hear anything at all. Not the jukebox, not the rumble of engines starting up outside in the parking lot, not the low murmur of Mason on the phone behind him, calling every brother within 100 miles. All he could hear was his own heartbeat pounding in his ears like a drum, and a tiny voice repeating the name of a woman he'd loved and lost almost 30 years ago. A woman named Annie who had gotten on a bus one winter morning in 1997 and never come back. A woman he'd looked for, written to, called everyone he knew about. A woman who apparently had been pregnant when she left and had never told him. Emily, Ray whispered, how old is your mama? The little girl thought about it. 27, she said. Her birthday is in January. January. Annie had left in April of 1997. Ray closed his eyes. He sat in that booth with a granddaughter he hadn't known he had, holding onto his hand like he was the only anchor in a storm. And in the parking lot outside, 40 motorcycles were roaring to life in the dying Arizona sun. And somewhere in Jasper Creek, Arizona, was a daughter Ray Callahan had never met. And somebody had her. Ray Callahan opened his eyes, and when he spoke, his voice was no longer quiet. Mason, he said, get every brother in a 300-mile radius on the road. Now. In strategic plot twist, Ray's hand was still wrapped around Emily's tiny fingers when Mason stepped up to the booth. Ray, you good? Ray didn't answer. Ray. Mason. Ray's voice came out rough, like he'd been gargling gravel. Mason, you need to sit down. I don't got time to sit down, brother. I got 15 guys on their way and another 30 making calls. What do you need me to sit down? Mason sat. Ray looked at him across the booth. Emily was between them, swinging her little feet, watching the two men with those big, cautious eyes. Mason, Ray said, this little girl is my granddaughter. Mason went completely still. What? Her mama is my daughter. Ray, her mama's name is Sophie Callahan, and she's 27. She was born in January of 1998. Ray swallowed hard. I dated a woman named Annie Pierce back in 97. She got on a Greyhound in April that year, and I never saw her again. I figured she got tired of me. Figured she met somebody better. He let out a laugh that had no humor in it whatsoever. Turns out she was pregnant. Mason stared at him. Mason, say something. I'm Ray, I'm sorry. I'm processing. Yeah, me too. Emily looked up. Is something wrong, Mr.? Ray turned to her, and his whole face softened into something that made Mason look away. No, sweetheart. Nothing's wrong. Everything's just a little surprising right now, that's all. Okay. Emily, honey, can I ask you one more thing? Uh-huh. Your Grandma Ruth, did you ever meet her? Emily shook her head. She died before I was born, but Mommy had pictures of her. Mommy said Grandma Ruth was the best person in the whole world. Ray's eyes went wet. His mother had known. His mother had known, and she'd never told him. But somehow she'd found Annie. Or Annie had found her, and his mother had made sure that if Annie's daughter ever needed help, she'd know where to go. The Eagle Bar. That's where Grandma Ruth's boys would be. Ruth Callahan had saved the life of a granddaughter she'd met and a great-granddaughter she never would. Ray stood up so fast the booth rocked. Mason, where's Tank? Outside, getting the boys in formation. Father Boone, 20 minutes out. Tell him to step on it, and tell Tank I want a team at the Sunset Inn in the next 10 minutes. Room number, Emily, honey. Do you remember the room number? Emily held up 2 fingers and 1 finger. 12, 21. 21, good girl. Mason, Sunset Inn, room 21. Tell the boys to be gentle. We don't know what we're walking into. Could be nothing. Could be a body. Ray. Could be Mason. Say it out loud or don't say it, but somebody's wife and my daughter has been gone for 12 hours. You know the numbers same as I do. Mason nodded once grim. Yeah, I know. Go. Mason went. Ray sat back down across from Emily. His hands were shaking. He put them under the table so she wouldn't see. Emily. Yes, mister. You can call me Ray if you want. You don't have to call me mister. Okay, Ray. Emily, sweetheart, has your mama been scared for a long time? The little girl's face did that crumpling thing again. Yes, she whispered. How long? Always. Always, ever since I remember. Ray closed his eyes for a second. Do you know the name of the person she's scared of? Emily's whole body went tight. Her shoulders climbed up toward her ears. She looked around the bar like she expected somebody to jump out from behind the jukebox. Emily, you're safe here. I promise you. Nobody in this bar is going to let anybody hurt you. Do you understand me? She nodded very small. Can you tell me his name? Emily leaned across the table and she whispered it like it was a curse word, like saying it too loud would make it real. Dwight. Ray's jaw locked. Dwight what, honey? I don't know his last name. Mommy just says Dwight. Is Dwight your daddy? Emily shook her head hard. No, Mommy says my daddy was a nice man who died before I was born. Is Dwight your mama's husband? No. Her boyfriend. He says he is. Mommy says he's not. Mommy says she told him to go away a long time ago, but he never goes away. Ray's whole face went dark. Emily, when's the last time you saw Dwight? Emily thought. 2 weeks ago, at the old house. That's why we left. Mommy said we had to leave fast. We took the bus. We took a lot of buses. Mommy said if we took enough buses, he couldn't find us. But he found you. Her lip trembled. Mommy said he found us. That's why she wrote the note. She said this time he was really mad. She said he had his face. His face, the face he gets when he's going to hurt somebody. Ray's stomach turned to ice. Behind him, the bar door opened and Darlene hurried over to intercept. Boys out back, out back. Don't come crowding in here. She's skittish enough as it is. Darlene, it's me, Father Boone's voice. Ray turned. The old priest walked in a little out of breath, a little stooped, wearing civilian clothes, just a flannel shirt and khakis and a silver cross tucked inside his collar. Father Boone had baptized half the men in the Iron Eagle's parking lot. He'd buried the other half's fathers. He'd heard more confessions in Jasper Creek than any therapist within 100 miles. Ray? Father? What's happening, son? Ray jerked his chin toward the booth. Father Boone followed his eyes. And when the old priest saw Emily, he stopped walking. He stopped walking entirely. Dear Lord in heaven, he whispered. You know her, Ray asked sharply. I know her mother. Father Boone lowered his voice. I've been hearing her confession for 3 months. What? Ray calmed down. Calm down, Father, you. I couldn't tell you, son. You know I couldn't. There are rules I don't bend, not even for you. Ray pushed a hand through his hair. He wanted to shout. He wanted to put a fist through the wall. Instead, he took a long, slow breath, the way his sponsor had taught him back when he was 25 years old, and drinking himself toward a grave. Father, tell me what you can tell me. Please. Father Boone glanced at Emily. Then he put a hand on Ray's shoulder and guided him to a corner of the bar out of the little girl's hearing. Her name is Sophie. the priest said quietly. She came to the church 3 months ago, not to pray, to ask if I knew anywhere safe she could leave her daughter if something happened to her. And you said, I said I'd find her somewhere. I told her about 2 different shelters. She wouldn't go, said he'd find her at any shelter, said he'd found her at shelters before. Who's he, Father Ray? Before I answer that, there's something she told me that I need you to hear first. What? Father Boone's old blue eyes filled. She told me her mother was a woman named Annie Pierce, and she told me her father was a man in Jasper Creek named Ray Callahan. And she told me her mother made her promise on her deathbed that she would never under any circumstances contact you, because her mother was ashamed. Her mother thought she'd ruin your life by disappearing. Her mother thought you'd hate her. Ray's knees almost buckled. Father, I know. Father, I looked for her for 3 years. I looked for that woman in every town between here and... I know, son. I know you did. Sophie knows too. That's why she finally came to Jasper Creek, because she had nowhere else to go, and she thought she hoped that if you were anything like the man her mother had described, you'd at least take in the child. Father, I would have taken in both of them. I would have taken in 100 of them. Why in God's name didn't she just come to me? Because she didn't know you, Ray. She only knew what her mother told her. And her mother, God rest her, told her only half the story. Ray sank into a chair. He put his head in his hands. Across the room, Emily was watching him, and her little forehead was furrowed like she knew something important was happening, even if she didn't know what. Father, Ray said. Who is this Dwight? Father Boone's face hardened. Dwight Renner. I looked into him after my 3rd visit with her. He's 39 years old. 2 assault convictions. 1 dropped domestic violence charge because the woman disappeared before the court date. Disappeared. That's the word the file used. Ray raised his head. Father, is Sophie still alive? Father Boone was quiet for a long time. I don't know, Ray. Give me your gut. My gut says yes. My gut says if he wanted her dead, he'd have done it 2 years ago. My gut says he wants her back. And the little girl with her. And my gut says that's worse. Ray stood up. He walked over to the booth. Emily was drawing another picture, another house, but this one had a stick figure woman standing next to it. Is that your mama, sweetheart? Uh-huh. She looks pretty. She is pretty. She has hair like mine. Ray had to press his lips together hard. Emily, I need to tell you something, and I need you to be a big, brave girl for me like your mama told you to be. Okay. Emily, my name is Ray Callahan. I know, you told me. Honey, your mama's last name is Callahan, too. Emily nodded very seriously. I know that. Sophie Callahan, that's her name. That's right. And sweetheart, a long, long time ago, before you were born, before your mama was born, I knew a woman named Annie Pierce. Emily's pink crayon stopped moving. She looked up. That's my grandma's name, she said. Yes, baby, it is. Grandma Annie, she died when I was 3. I'm sorry, sweetheart. She had yellow hair like me. Yeah, baby, she did. I remember. Emily's whole face went still. She was thinking something through. Her mouth worked silently. And then in a voice so quiet, Ray almost missed it, she said, Are you my grandpa? Ray couldn't answer for a second. Then he said, Yeah, Emily, I think I might be. Are you sure? I'm pretty sure. How come I never met you? Because I didn't know about you, honey. I would have come a long time ago if I'd known. Emily considered this. Then she slid out of the booth, walked around the table, and climbed into Ray Callahan's lap. She didn't say anything. She just put her little head against his chest. Ray, 40 years a biker, 2 tours in Kuwait, a man who hadn't cried at his own mother's funeral because he'd been too angry at God. Ray Callahan put his arms around a 5-year-old he'd known for 30 minutes, and he cried. Silently, the way grown men cry. Don't cry, Grandpa, Emily whispered. I ain't crying, sweetheart. Yes, you are. Yeah, I am. Sorry. It's okay. Mommy cries too. She tries not to, but I can hear her at night sometimes. Ray held her tighter. Mason came back inside. He took one look at the 2 of them and made himself very busy at the bar. After a minute, he cleared his throat. Ray, the boys at the Sunset, they're there. Ray lifted his head. What did they find? Room's empty, bed's made. But there's a duffel bag by the door, woman's clothes, and a little girl's clothes. Looks like she was packed to leave. Anything else? One thing. Mason hesitated. The door was unlocked. Ray, she wouldn't have left the door unlocked. Not with the kid inside. No, she wouldn't have. There's also blood, just a little, on the bathroom sink. Ray's jaw tightened. How much? Not a lot. Like a cut. Could be anything. Could be she nicked herself, shaving her legs. Could be he grabbed her and she fought. What do you think? I think she fought. Yeah, me too. Ray looked down at Emily. She closed her eyes. She hadn't slept. He realized she hadn't slept since the night before. Probably hadn't eaten either until Darlene brought her the grilled cheese. Darlene. Yeah, hun. Can Emily sleep in your office? Course she can. I need somebody with her every single second. You understand me? Every second. No exceptions. I'll be with her myself. Thank you. Ray stood up carefully, lifting Emily in his arms. She weighed almost nothing. Her little hand gripped the front of his leather vest, even half asleep. He carried her to the back office. Darlene had already pulled a couch cushion onto the floor and thrown a quilt over it. Ray laid his granddaughter down. He stood looking at her for a long moment. Then he turned to Darlene. If anybody who isn't me or Mason or Tank or Father Boone comes to this door, you shoot first, and ask questions later. You got me? I got you, Ray. I mean it, Darlene. Ray, I know. He squeezed her shoulder and walked out. Back in the main room, Father Boone had pulled out a little leather notebook and was showing something to Mason. What is it? Ray asked. Ray. Addresses, Father Boone said. Places Sophie mentioned. Places she'd been. Places she was scared of. Let me see. There were 7 of them. One was crossed out a shelter in Phoenix. One was circled a trailer park on the east side of Jasper Creek. This one, Ray said, pointing at the circled one. Why'd you circle it? Because she mentioned it the last time I saw her. She said she was scared he was staying there. She said she'd seen his truck out front. What kind of truck? Black Ford. Older model. Busted taillight on the right side. Ray turned to Mason. Call Tank. Get eyes on that trailer park. Quiet. Nobody goes in until I get there. On it. Mason stepped outside. Ray could hear him barking into his phone. Father, Ray said. I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. Always, son. Do you think he has her at that trailer park? Father Boone thought about it carefully. No. Why not? Because she saw his truck there a week ago. He'd have moved by now. He's been running her for years, Ray. He's not dumb. Where would he take her? Somewhere nobody would think to look. Somewhere remote. Somewhere he can keep her quiet for a while. Ray's blood went cold. Somewhere he can keep her, he repeated. Yes. Father, is he going to kill her? Father Boone took a very long breath. Ray, I think he's going to make her choose. I think he's going to tell her, come back to me, be mine, disappear with me, or I'll find the girl. I think that's why he took her alive. I think that's why there's not a body in that motel room. I think he's bargaining. And when he finds out the girl is with us, then he panics, then he runs, or then he gets desperate and he... Stop. Ray, you need to hear it. I need to find her father. I'll hear the rest later. Ray strode to the door. He pushed it open and stepped out into the parking lot. And then he stopped. Because the parking lot of the Iron Eagle Saloon was not the parking lot he had left 45 minutes ago. There were no longer 40 motorcycles. There were closer to 150, and more engines were coming down the main road. Ray could hear them, a low, distant rumble growing louder and louder, like a thunderstorm rolling in from the desert. Tank came jogging over. Ray, we got a problem. What kind? The good kind. Word got out faster than we planned. Chapters from Tucson, Flagstaff, Prescott. Yuma, they're all moving. Yuma's got a 200-mile ride ahead of them, but they're coming. Word on the radio is we're looking at maybe 500 bikes before the night is out. 500. That's what I'm hearing. Ray stared at him. Tank, why what? Why are 500 men coming to a parking lot in Jasper Creek for the little girl they've never met? Tank gave him a long look. Because word also got out that the little girl is your granddaughter, Ray. Ray closed his eyes. Mason told them, Mason told everybody. He told them to come for a little girl who needed help. And then somebody asked whose girl she was, and he told them. Tank, I didn't want... Ray, listen to me. You've been riding with some of these men for 35 years. You were there when Caleb's wife had cancer. You were there when Dutch's kid overdosed. You were there when Franco's house burned down. These men don't forget. You got a granddaughter in trouble. They are coming. End of story. Ray couldn't speak. Tank clapped him on the shoulder. Now, what's the plan? Ray took a long breath. The plan, he said, is we split into 5 teams. Each team takes a quadrant of the county. We hit every motel, every trailer park, every abandoned property, every back road. We're looking for a black Ford with a busted right taillight. We don't engage, we radio in. When we find him, we converge. Copy that. And Tank. Yeah, Ray. If any man takes it upon himself to kill this guy before I get there, he answers to me. You understand? I understand, Ray. Make sure they all understand. Yes, sir. Tank turned and walked back into the crowd of leather and denim. Ray heard him start barking orders. Listen up, listen up. This is how it's going to work. And the engines began to shift positioning, organizing. Ray stood alone for a second. He thought about a woman named Annie Pierce getting on a Greyhound bus in 1997. He thought about a little girl named Sophie growing up on the word of a dying mother who'd gotten everything wrong about him. He thought about 27 years of a daughter who had prayed probably every night of her life that her father would be a man worth finding. Ray pulled his cell phone out of his pocket. He scrolled down to a contact he hadn't called in 6 years, a man named Gus, a man he used to ride with who now worked for the Arizona Department of Public Safety. Ray pressed call. It rang twice. Ray. Gus, I need a favor, off the books. You know I don't ask unless I'm out of options. Talk to me. I need a name run. Dwight Renner, 39 years old, 2 assault convictions in the system, 1 drop DEV charge. I need last known address. I need vehicle registration. I need anything you got. Ray, what the hell is going on? My daughter's missing Gus. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Ray, you don't have a daughter. I do, Gus. Turns out I do. Another silence. Give me 10 minutes. Thank you. Ray hung up. He slid the phone back into his pocket. Then he walked over to his bike, a big matte black Harley that had carried him through 40 states in 2 divorces and 1 wife's funeral, and he swung a leg over the saddle. The engine rumbled to life under him like something living. Around him in a chorus of mechanical thunder, 150 other engines answered. Ray lifted his hand, and the parking lot of the Iron Eagle Saloon erupted. Somewhere in Jasper Creek, Arizona, Dwight Renner had a woman named Sophie. And somewhere in Jasper Creek, Arizona, 150, and soon 500 of the meanest-looking, softest-hearted men the Southwest had ever produced were about to come looking for him. Ray Callahan dropped his hand. The first wave of motorcycles rolled out into the dying light. Ray's phone buzzed against his hip before the first wave of bikes had cleared the parking lot. He killed the engine and pulled it out. Gus, talk to me. Ray, I got him. Go. Dwight Renner, 39. Last known address is a rental house off County Road 14 that's out past the old quarry about 11 miles east of Jasper Creek. Lease is in his mother's name. He's been there about 6 months. What else? Vehicle registration matches. Black Ford F-15. 2003. Right rear taillight was flagged in a traffic stop back in January. And Ray, I looked harder. This guy's not just mean. He's got 2 sealed juvenile files and an order of protection that a woman in Tucson filed in 2019. She withdrew it 4 days later. Because he got to her. That's my guess. Gus, is there a current warrant? Nothing active. The DV charge got dropped when the witness disappeared. Gus, yeah. If I go out there tonight and something happens, can you be fishing at Lake Pleasant? There was a pause on the other end of the line, a long one. Ray, listen to me carefully. I don't know anything about any bikers heading east on 14. I don't know anything about anybody named Dwight Renner. I'm off duty. My phone is on the kitchen counter. My radio's in the truck. If you find that woman and she's hurt, you call 911 the second she's safe, and you tell them you were driving by and heard screaming. You hear me? I hear you. And Ray, yeah, don't kill him. I wasn't planning on it. I know you weren't. I'm saying it anyway. Ray ended the call. He sat on his bike for 3 full seconds, memorizing the address. Then he swung around and whistled 2 sharp notes that cut through the thunder of engines like a knife. Tank saw him. Mason saw him. The wave of bikes began to slow. Change of plan, Ray called out. We got an address. He rattled it off. Tank repeated it back. Mason was already on his phone. Forget the quadrants, Ray said. I want 12 men with me, just 12. Riders I've known longer than I've been sober. The rest of you, I need you on the approach roads. Cover every way in and every way out. Nobody drives past this operation tonight without us knowing about it. You see a black Ford F-15, oh, coming out of that property, you don't let it pass. You don't shoot it. You don't ram it. You just block the road and you stand there. Copy, Ray. Tank, you're with me. Yeah, Ray. Mason, I want you back inside with Emily. Mason blinked. Ray, no, I'm coming with you. Mason, that little girl doesn't know me, Ray. She doesn't know any of us. But you know what? If something happens to you tonight, God forbid I'm saying she needs at least one face in this bar that's seen her mother. You need Father Boone with her. You need Darlene with her. And you're going to need me out there because I'm the fastest rider you've got, and you're going to want somebody who can run point. Ray looked at him for a long moment. All right, Mason, you're with me. Tank pulled Diesel from the quadrant list. He stays back with Emily. He'll do. Diesel hates kids, Ray. Diesel says he hates kids. Diesel's got 3 grandbabies who call him Papa Bear. He'll do. Tank grinned for the first time that night. Copy that. Ray looked down at the gas gauge on his Harley. Full. He'd filled up that afternoon before he knew a single thing about Sophie Callahan. Before he knew he had a daughter. He closed his eyes for half a second and said a prayer he hadn't said since Kuwait. God, don't let me be too late. Inside the Iron Eagle, Emily was asleep on the couch cushion in Darlene's office. She had her thumb in her mouth and the quilt pulled up under her chin, and she looked every bit of her 5 years. Father Boone sat in a chair beside her, reading from a little worn prayer book. Diesel, a barrel-chested man with a shaved head and a neck tattoo of a rose, stood in the doorway with his arms crossed, watching the hallway like a guard dog. Father, Diesel said quietly, yes, son, if Ray doesn't come back tonight, what happens to her? Father Boone looked down at the little girl. Then she stays with me, he said, until we find her next of kin. And if we can't, then she stays with me. You're 73 years old, Father. I know how old I am. I'm just saying. I know what you're saying, Diesel, and I'm saying the little girl sleeps under my roof tonight if her grandfather doesn't come home. Is that all right with you? Diesel thought about it for a long moment. Then he said very quietly, she can stay with me. I got the room. My wife will love her. Father Boone looked up and smiled a tired, watery smile. Your wife will indeed love her. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Amen. In the office, Emily stirred in her sleep. She whimpered. Her little hand clenched the quilt. Mama, she whispered. Father Boone reached over and laid his old hand on her forehead. Sleep, child, he murmured. Your mama is coming home. And he bowed his head and prayed. Outside, 13 motorcycles peeled away from the Iron Eagle parking lot and turned east on the highway. Ray rode at the front. Tank and Mason flanked him. Behind them, 10 of the toughest, quietest men in 3 counties, men with names like Cotton and Preacher and Hammer and Slim, rode in a tight diamond formation the way they'd learned to ride decades ago, before any of them had kids, before any of them had grandkids, before any of them had lost anybody they couldn't get back. The sun was almost gone. Ray's headlight cut a yellow cone into the dust. They were 6 miles out from the quarry road when Ray's radio crackled. Ray, you copy. It was Cotton. Cotton had taken a team north to scout the approach. Go ahead. Ray, I'm sitting about a mile north of the turn onto County 14. I got eyes on a black Ford F-152,003 busted right rear taillight. Just pulled out of the turnoff and is heading south on the highway. He's alone in the cab, Ray. There is nobody in the passenger seat. Ray's blood went cold. Cotton, is there anybody in the bed of the truck? Can't tell from here. He's got a cover on the bed. You sure he's alone? I put binoculars on him, I'm sure. Ray thought fast. If Dwight was alone in the truck, if Sophie wasn't with him, then one of 2 things was true. Either he'd left her at the house or he'd already moved her somewhere else, or she was in the bed of the truck, or she was in the bed of the truck and she wasn't moving. Cotton, stay on him. Do not engage. Keep a half-mile distance. Tell me every turn he makes. Copy. Tank, Mason, we split. Tank, you take 5 men and peel off south. You follow Cotton's lead and box that truck in. Do not let him reach a populated area. Mason, you stay with me. We hit the house. If Sophie's there, we get her. If she's not, we tear that house apart until we know where he took her. Copy, Ray. And Tank. Yeah. If you stop that truck and you open that tailgate and she's in there, you call me before you do anything else. You understand? You call me first. I understand. The formation split. 5 bikes peeled off south into the dusk. Ray and the remaining 7 kept east toward County Road 14. Ray's hands were shaking on the grips. He hadn't shaken on a bike in 40 years. Meanwhile, Tank's team caught up to Cotton about 2 miles south. They merged into one group, 6 bikes total, and held a half-mile behind the black Ford. Dwight Renner drove like a man who didn't know he was being followed. He kept it steady at 60. He signaled his lane changes. He obeyed the speed limit. Tank keyed his radio. Ray, he's driving like a grandma. This guy ain't in a hurry. Keep on him. Copy. 2 miles passed, 3, 4, and then the black Ford did something strange. It turned into the parking lot of a gas station. Tank's team slowed. They pulled into a dirt lot about 100 yards back behind a row of semi-trailers where they could see the gas station, but the gas station couldn't see them. Dwight got out of the truck. He stretched. He walked into the gas station. Tank stared through his binoculars. Ray, he just went inside. He's buying something. He's Ray. He's smiling. He's smiling at the girl behind the counter. He's acting like it's Tuesday. Tank? Yeah. Get eyes on the bed of that truck. Right now. On it. Tank handed the binoculars to Cotton and swung off his bike. He walked, not ran, just walked, a big man in a leather vest taking a casual stroll across a gas station lot straight up to the black Ford. He pretended to tie his boot. He pretended to check his phone. And while he did, he slowly leaned over the side of the truck bed and listened. Nothing. No movement. No sound. He reached a gloved hand under the truck bed cover and gave it a gentle push. It lifted an inch. He peered in. Empty. Empty except for a blue tarp neatly folded and a shovel. Tank's stomach turned. He walked back to his bike. He got on. He picked up the radio. Ray, go. She's not in the truck. What's in the truck? A tarp and a shovel. There was a long silence on the radio. Ray. I heard you, Tank. Ray, what do you want us to do? Ray's voice when it came back was the quietest Tank had ever heard it. Grab him. Copy. Tank. Yeah. Do not hurt him. I need him to talk. Alive and talking. Do you hear me? Crystal clear, Ray. Soon as you've got him, you bring him to me at the house. Yes, sir. Tank signaled to his men. 3 of them drifted casually toward the gas station entrance. 1 drifted toward the back of the truck. 1 stayed with the bikes. Tank himself went to the driver's side door of the F-150 and leaned against it like it was his own truck, like he was waiting for a buddy to come out of the store. 45 seconds later, Dwight Renner walked out of the gas station carrying a bag of beef jerky and a bottle of Gatorade. He saw Tank. He stopped. Tank smiled a big, slow smile, the kind of smile a grizzly bear might give a deer, and said, Hey there, Dwight. How's your night going? Dwight dropped the jerky. He turned to run. He made it 4 steps. Cotton tackled him so hard they both went into the ice freezer chest next to the front door. Ray heard Tank's voice come back over the radio 2 minutes later. Ray, we got him. Ray exhaled a breath he'd been holding for what felt like an hour. Is he hurt? Bloody lip, otherwise fine. Is he talking? He's cursing. That'll change. You bring him to me. On our way. Ray slowed his bike. The house Dwight's rental was coming up on the left. A beat-up single story with peeling paint, a sagging porch, and no lights on inside. Ray killed his engine. The 7 other bikes behind him did the same. The silence that followed was enormous. Mason, take 3 men and circle the house. Back door windows, everything. Nobody comes out. Copy. The rest with me. Front door. Ray walked up the dirt driveway. His boots crunched on the gravel. He could hear his own pulse in his ears. He didn't know what he was going to man. He didn't know if he was going to find a woman alive or a woman dead or no woman at all. He didn't know if after 58 years on this earth, he was about to meet his daughter for the first time or lose her forever. He climbed the 3 steps to the porch. He put his hand on the doorknob. It was locked. "Preacher," he said over his shoulder. Preacher, a lanky man with a gray ponytail who had done 11 years in Florence for things he never talked about, stepped forward with a crowbar. "You want quiet or fast?" "Fast." Preacher put the crowbar in the doorframe. One hard yank. The wood cracked. Ray pushed the door open and stepped inside. The house stank. Cigarettes, stale beer, something else underneath it, something sour or older that made Ray's stomach clench. He moved fast. Living room empty, kitchen empty, hallway empty, bathroom empty, bedroom door closed. Ray stood in front of it. He could hear Preacher breathing behind him. He could hear his own heart. He turned the knob. The door swung open. The room was dark. There was a mattress on the floor. There was a chair. There was a space heater that wasn't turned on. And there was a woman on the mattress. Her wrists were zip-tied to a pipe that ran along the baseboard. Her mouth had duct tape across it. Her eye was swollen shut. She had blood in her hair. She wasn't moving. Ray's knees almost buckled. "Sophie," he whispered. He crossed the room in 3 strides and dropped to his knees beside her. He put 2 fingers under her jaw. A pulse, weak, but a pulse. "She's alive," he said, and his voice cracked. "Preacher, she's alive. Get the knife, get the knife." Preacher was already cutting the zip ties. Ray peeled the duct tape off as gently as he could. Sophie's lips were cracked and bleeding. He could see, even in the dim light from the hallway, that she hadn't had water in a while. "Sophie, Sophie, honey, can you hear me?" Her one open eye fluttered. She tried to pull away from him. "No, no, no, sweetheart, I'm not him. I'm a friend. Your daughter sent me. Emily sent me." The name hit her like a bucket of cold water. "Emily," she rasped. It was barely a sound. "Emily. She's safe, Sophie. She's safe. She walked to the Iron Eagle just like you told her. She's at the bar right now. She's asleep. She's fine." Sophie let out a sound that was half a sob, half a laugh. "She made it. She made it, honey. She made it. He said she'd never make it. He said he was wrong. She made it." Sophie's open eye focused on Ray's face. She squinted. Her expression was confused. "Who are you?" Ray swallowed hard. "Sophie, I'm going to say something and I need you to not be scared. Can you do that?" She stared at him. "My name is Ray Callahan." Her face went absolutely still. "My mother was Ruth Callahan." A tear slid out of her one good eye. "I think I'm your father, Sophie." She opened her mouth. No sound came out. She tried again. My mom said you wouldn't." "Your mom was wrong, sweetheart. Your mom was wrong about a lot of things. But she wasn't wrong about you." Sophie's face crumpled. She reached up barely weakly and put her shaking hand against Ray's cheek. Ray held her hand there with his own, and for the second time that night, he cried. Preacher stood in his doorway looking away, giving them what privacy he could. After a moment, he said gently, "Ray, we need to get her out. She needs a hospital." "Yeah. I called it in. Ambulance is 8 minutes out." "Good." Ray slid his arms under Sophie as gently as he could and lifted her. She weighed almost as little as her daughter. She buried her face in his shoulder and cried without making a sound. Ray carried her out of that dark room, down the hallway, through the living room that reeked of cigarettes, out the front door Preacher had just broken, and onto the dirt driveway. Mason was standing at the foot of the porch. When he saw Ray with Sophie in his arms, he took his hat off. "Ray, she's alive, Mason. Thank God. Ambulance is coming." "Yeah, I hear him." And Ray did too now, far away down the highway, the faint wail of a siren growing louder. He laid Sophie down gently on the grass out of the house, away from that smell. He took off his leather vest and folded it under her head. "Sophie, sweetheart, you hang on. Help is coming." "Ray." "Yeah, honey." "Where's Dwight?" "Don't you worry about Dwight." "Ray, where is he?" "My boys have him." "Ray, you listen to me." Her voice was weak, but it was sharp. "Ray, don't kill him. Don't let your boys kill him." "Sophie, if you kill him, he wins. Do you hear me? If you kill him, my daughter grows up with a grandfather in prison and a father who did a murder for her. He doesn't get to do that to us. Do you hear me?" Ray stared at her. 40 years in the wind, 40 years of living by his own code, and a 27-year-old woman he'd known for 6 minutes was telling him what kind of man he was going to be for the rest of his life. And she was right. She was absolutely, completely right. I hear you, Sophie. Promise me. I promise you. She nodded once, and then her one good eye rolled back and she passed out against his vest. The ambulance turned into the driveway 40 seconds later. While the paramedics worked on Sophie, Ray stood apart. He pulled out his phone. He dialed Tank. Tank picked up on the first ring. Ray. Tank, where are you? About 4 miles out. We got Dwight in the back of Preacher's truck. He's zip-tied. He's crying. He's a real tough guy, Ray. Bring him, but Tank, listen to me. Nobody lays another hand on him. You hear me? He goes to the sheriff tonight, alive, unmarked past what Cotton did at the gas station. Silence. Tank, I need you to say it. Ray, we got him dead to rights. He kidnapped her. He beat her. He had a shovel and a tarp in the bed of his truck. He was going to bury her. I know what he was going to do. Ray. Tank. His daughter, my granddaughter, is going to grow up in a world where the men in her family did the right thing. That is the only thing I have to give her that matters. Do you understand? A long breath on the other end of the line. Yeah, Ray, I understand. Bring him to me, unharmed. I'll hand him to the sheriff myself. Copy. Ray hung up. He walked back over to the ambulance. One of the paramedics, a young woman with a ponytail and kind eyes, looked up at him. Sir, we're stabilizing her. She's going to make it. But she's been dehydrated for hours and she's got a concussion and at least 2 broken ribs. We're taking her to Jasper Creek General. You family. Ray looked at Sophie lying on the stretcher, a blanket pulled up over her, an IV already in her arm. Yeah, he said. I'm her father. The paramedic nodded. Then let's go, Dad. You can ride with us. Ray climbed into the back of the ambulance. He took his daughter's hand. The ambulance door closed and the siren started up again, and somewhere down the highway, 150 bikers were still searching the dark for a black Ford that had already been found. Ray squeezed Sophie's hand. Emily's waiting for you, baby girl, he whispered. Emily's waiting. And somewhere in a back office at the Iron Eagle Saloon, a little blonde girl in a too big hoodie slept with her thumb in her mouth, not knowing yet that her mama was coming home. The ambulance bounced over a pothole and Sophie's hand twitched in Ray's. Easy, the paramedic said to the driver. Easy up there. Sorry. Ray didn't look up. He was watching his daughter's face. Every breath she took sounded like it hurt. Every breath she took was the most beautiful sound he had ever heard in his life. Sir, the paramedic said gently. What's her name? Sophie? Sophie what? Ray hesitated for half a second. Sophie Callahan. And your dad? Yes. Any other next of kin we should call her daughter. How old? 5. The paramedic's eyes softened. She was somebody safe. She's with a priest and a biker named Diesel. The paramedic blinked. Okay. He's better than he sounds. I'm sure he is, sir. Sophie stirred. Her eye fluttered open. Ray, I'm here, baby. Ray, did you get him? We got him. Alive. Alive. Her one good eye filled up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Stop thanking me, sweetheart. Just breathe. Ray, I have to tell you something. Later. No, now, before I pass out again. Ray leaned closer. What is it, honey? He has a brother. Ray went cold. Dwight has a brother. Yes, his name is Lee. Lee Renner. He's worse than Dwight Ray. He's the one who, oh God, Ray Lee is the one who kept finding us. Dwight wasn't smart enough. Dwight couldn't find his own keys half the time. Lee was the tracker. Lee was the planner. Lee is the one who, her face twisted. She couldn't finish. Sophie, honey, where is Lee? I don't know, but if Dwight doesn't come home tonight, Lee is going to know, and Lee is going to come looking. And Ray Lee knows about Emily. Lee has a picture of Emily. Ray felt the floor of the ambulance drop out from under him. A picture. In his wallet. I saw it once. He said if I ever ran, if I ever left Dwight, he'd find her. He'd find her, not me. He'd find Emily. Ray was already pulling out his phone. Paramedic, how much longer? 4 minutes to the hospital, sir. Ray hit Tank's number. Tank picked up. Tank, listen to me. Listen close. There's a second one. Dwight's got a brother, Lee Renner. He's the dangerous one. He's the smart one. And he knows about the little girl. Jesus Christ, Ray. Get back to the Iron Eagle, now. I'm 40 minutes from the bar, Ray. Who's closer? Hammer's group is about 20 out. Slim's group maybe 15. The approach road guys from Tucson are probably 25. Hammer's closest. Call Hammer. Tell him to get to the bar. Tell him to lock the doors. Tell Diesel that nobody comes through that door unless he can personally vouch for them. And Tank, tell Diesel to move her. Move her off the couch. Move her into the basement. Move her anywhere with one door that locks from the inside. Copy, Ray. And Tank. Yeah. Ask Dwight where his brother is. He's been asking for a lawyer, Ray. He shut up about 10 minutes ago. Tank, I'm not telling you to hurt him. I'm telling you to ask him. Nicely, like a gentleman. A long pause. I'll ask him, Ray. Call me in 5. Ray hung up. Sophie's one good eye was on his face. He's going to come for her, isn't he? Not tonight, he isn't. Ray. Sophie, listen to me. Listen close. 150 bikers rolled out of that parking lot tonight for your little girl, and that was before anybody knew who she was. We're up to 300 now. Maybe 4. By the time Lee Renner figures out his brother isn't coming home, there are going to be 500 men between him and your daughter. Sophie closed her eye. A tear rolled out of the corner. I don't deserve this, she whispered. Stop it. I don't. I got involved with these people. I brought them into her life. Sophie Callahan, listen to your father. She opened her eye. You don't deserve a damn thing. Nobody deserves what he did to you. Nobody deserves to be 27 years old and so scared she has to send her baby to a bar. You don't deserve this. But you earned this, honey. You earned every one of those men out there tonight because you survived long enough to send your daughter somewhere safe. You hear me? She nodded just barely. Now rest. We'll figure out Lee. The ambulance slowed. The driver called back. Coming up on the hospital, guys. Up by him. At the Iron Eagle, Diesel was pacing. He hadn't heard from Ray in 20 minutes. That wasn't right. Ray always checked in. Ray's whole career was made on checking in. Father Boone sat beside the sleeping Emily, the prayer book open on his lap. But he wasn't reading it anymore. He was watching Diesel pace. Son? Yeah, Father. You're making me nervous. I'm sorry. What's your gut telling you? Diesel stopped in pacing. My gut's telling me we're missing something. Father Boone closed the prayer book. My gut is telling me the same thing. Diesel's phone rang. He snatched it up. Yeah, it was Hammer. Diesel, lock the doors. What? Lock the doors. Now, I'm coming in hot. 10 minutes out, there's a second guy. Dwight Renner has a brother. Name's Lee. He's the one to worry about. Ray wants the girl moved off the couch and somewhere locked down. Diesel didn't even respond. He hung up, strode to the office and said, Father, we're moving her. We're the walk-in cooler behind the bar. Father Boone stood up. That's cold Diesel. She'll freeze. It'll be off. I'll cut the power. It locks from the inside, Father. It's a box of steel. He could bring a truck through this bar and he wouldn't get to her. Father Boone looked down at Emily. Then he looked at Diesel. All right. Diesel scooped the little girl up, quilt and all. She barely stirred. He carried her out into the main bar where Darlene was already locking the front doors. What's happening? Darlene demanded. There's a second guy, Lee Renner. Hammer's 10 minutes out. Until he gets here, we get her in the cooler. Darlene didn't ask a question. She just grabbed the keys off her belt and ran for the cooler. She yanked the door open. She flipped the breaker to kill the chill. She pulled out 2 cases of beer and threw down a clean bar rag as a pad. Diesel laid Emily down on the rag quilt wrapped around her. Oh, Darlene, you got a weapon back here. Shotgun under the bar. Loaded. Always. Bring it. Darlene disappeared. She came back with a pump-action shotgun, which she handed to Diesel like she was handing him a loaf of bread. Diesel took it. He stood in the open cooler doorway, looking down at the 5-year-old granddaughter of Ray Callahan, a child he'd known for less than an hour, a child he was about to defend with his life. Father, he said. Yes, son. You go into the cooler with her. Pull the door most of the way. If you hear gunfire, you close it all the way and you lock it from the inside. You don't open it for anybody but me, Darlene Hammer, or Ray. Copy. Copy, son. If you hear me stop talking, you lock it anyway. Father Boone nodded. He climbed into the cooler and sat down beside Emily. He laid a trembling hand on her back. Diesel pulled the door almost closed. Then he turned to Darlene. How much time? Hammer said 10. That was about 3 minutes ago. 7 minutes. 7 minutes. Diesel racked the shotgun. Chickens. At the hospital, Sophie was wheeled through the doors and into a curtained bay. A doctor met her, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s with silver hair pulled back in a bun, and started rattling off orders. Ray stood in the corner, hat in his hands, not breathing quite right. Sir, Dad, right. We've got her. She's stable. We're going to get her cleaned up, hydrated, scanned. She's going to be okay, but I need you to let us work. Can you step out? Yeah. Waiting room is down the hall. Ray walked out into the hallway. His phone was already ringing. Tank. Tell me. Ray, Dwight cracked. And me, Lee's not in Jasper Creek. Ray's stomach unclenched an inch. Where is he, Buckantham? Flagstaff. Been there 2 days. He's been casing a shelter up there. He thought Sophie was there. You sure? Dwight swears. He's crying. He's real cooperative now, Ray. I don't know what you want me to do about that. Good. He can be cooperative to the sheriff, too. What about the picture of Emily? Dwight says Lee has it. Dwight says Lee took it off Sophie's phone 6 months ago. Dwight says Dwight says Lee's already got a name for when he finds her. He's been calling her his in his head for 6 months. Ray had to sit down. He sank onto a plastic chair in the hospital hallway and put his head between his knees. Ray, I'm here, Tank. What do you want me to do? Where are you right now? 40 miles from the bar, 45 from Jasper Creek General. Dwight's in the bed of Preacher's truck, hogtied. We're going to hand him to the sheriff like we said. Don't. Say again. Don't hand him to the sheriff. Not yet. Ray. Tank, think about it. Dwight gets arrested. He gets a phone call. He calls Lee. Lee runs or Lee comes here. Either way, we lose the element. I want Lee. I want him tonight. I want him before he knows his brother is gone. So what do I do with Dwight? You keep him in the truck, zip-tied, gagged, no phone, until we have Lee in custody too. Then we hand them over together. Ray, that is kidnapping. That is a felony. Tank, I know what it is. Ray, you don't have to do it. Say the word and I'll figure another way. But that's what I'm asking you to do. There was a long silence. How long? Hours, maybe less, as long as it takes to get Lee. Another silence. Ray, you remember 1994? Yeah, I remember. When I was about to lose my daughter to that son of a bitch husband and you rode 600 miles to get her out. Yeah. You didn't ask me then what it was legally called either. No, I didn't. All right, Dwight's in my truck. He stays in my truck until you say otherwise. Thank you, Tank. Now tell me how we get Lee. Ray thought, we use Dwight's phone. Come again. Dwight's phone, we send Lee a text, as Dwight, something simple. Got her. Bring the van to the quarry road. Meet me at the house. Ray? Yeah, that is smart. I was a mean drunk for 20 years, Tank. I learned how to think sideways. What if Lee calls instead of texts? Then you don't answer, you text back. Can't talk, she's thrashing, come. Copy. Send it now. Sending. Ray hung up. He stood up, and immediately his phone rang again. It was Mason. Ray, we're at the house. We cleaned it out. We got her phone. We got her bag. We got Emily's backpack. Good. And Ray, there's a letter. A letter. Addressed to you, sealed, inside the duffel bag. She was carrying it with her. Ray's stomach did something complicated. A letter to me. Ray, it's in your mother's handwriting. Ray stood in the hospital hallway for 10 full seconds without moving. Say that again, Mason. The letter is in your mother's handwriting. I'd know it anywhere. She wrote me that card when my dad died, you remember. It's the same handwriting. What does it say? Didn't open it. It's addressed to you. Mason, bring it. On my way. Ray put the phone in his pocket. He walked on legs that didn't quite feel like his own down the hallway to the waiting room. He sat down in a plastic chair. He looked at his hands. 30 minutes. 30 minutes to process that he had a daughter. 30 minutes to rescue her from a man who was going to bury her alive. 30 minutes to discover that the man who'd done it had a brother who was worse. 30 minutes to find out that his dead mother had written him a letter from beyond the grave that had been traveling in his runaway daughter's duffel bag for God knows how long. Ray Callahan put his face in his hands and he laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the laugh of a man who'd been hit by so many freight trains in one evening that he'd stopped being able to feel them. "Sir, are you okay?" A young nurse had stopped in front of him. "I'm fine, miss. Just a long day." "Your daughter is asking for you." Ray stood up fast. "She's awake. She's awake. She's asking for Ray." He followed the nurse back down the hallway. Sophie's bay was quieter now. She was cleaned up. The blood was gone from her hair. There was a bandage over her eye. The IV was still in her arm, but the color was back in her face. "Hey, baby girl." "Ray, I'm here." She reached out her hand. He took it. "Where's Emily?" "She's at the bar. She's safe. A friend of mine is with her." Is she scared?" "She was asleep when I left, sleeping with her thumb in her mouth and a quilt pulled up over her shoulders." Sophie closed her good eye. "She does that when she's tired." "She was brave tonight, Sophie. She was so brave." "I know, she's like that. She's always been like that. Even when she was 2, she'd fall down and get up without crying. She gets that from you." Sophie's eye opened again. "No, she doesn't." "Sophie, she gets it from her grandma, from Annie. My mom was the strongest person I ever knew." Ray swallowed. "Tell me about your mom." Sophie looked at the ceiling. "She worked 3 Dutch a yen every year of my life, waitress, housekeeper, and she did laundry for a motel on weekends. She never complained, she never drank. She never not once said a bad word about you, Ray." "She didn't, never. She said you were the best man she'd ever met. She said she'd made a mistake leaving you. She said she was scared." "Scared of what?" "Of being a burden. She said you had just come back from Kuwait. She said you were trying to get your life back together. She said if she'd told you about me, you'd have quit your job and married her, and she couldn't do that to you." Ray shook his head. "She was wrong, Sophie. I know. She was so wrong. I know, Ray. I would have. I know." Sophie squeezed his hand. "Ray, she wrote me a letter. Before she died, I want you to read it." "Okay. It's in my bag." "Mason's bringing your bag. He's on his way." Sophie nodded. She closed her eye. "Ray, I'm going to sleep for a minute. Is that okay?" "That's okay, sweetheart. You stay, I stay. You get Emily. Soon as you're stable, soon as the doctors say you can have her, I'll go get her myself." "Good." She was asleep before the word was out of her mouth. At the Iron Eagle, Diesel heard the sound of a single motorcycle. He tensed. He lifted the shotgun. He stepped back from the window. The bike idled into the lot. It wasn't Hammer's bike. Hammer rode a cherry red Softail. This was a black fat boy. Diesel didn't recognize it. The rider killed the engine, swung a leg off, walked toward the front door, 6 feet tall, lean, wearing a denim jacket, not a colors vest, not a brother. Diesel keyed his own radio. "Hammer, how far I am? Shot to I am up him. 2 minutes, brother. I got a stranger at the door." "Hold, I'm coming." The stranger knocked. Diesel said nothing. The stranger knocked again. "Hello," came a voice through the door. "Hello, is anybody in there? I'm looking for my sister." Diesel's grip on the shotgun tightened. "Sister's name," Diesel called. "Her name is Sophie. Sophie Callahan. I was told she might be here." Diesel went very, very still. "Who told you that?" "A priest." "What priest?" "Father Boone, over at St. Augustine's. I called him. I've been looking for my sister for 2 years. His secretary said he was here." Behind the bar in the walk-in cooler, Father Boone, who had been praying silently, hand on Emily's back, turned his head. He strained to hear. Then he mouthed very quietly to nobody, "I don't have a secretary." Darlene, who had come up to stand at Diesel's shoulder, heard the stranger and whispered, "Diesel, Father Boone doesn't have a secretary." Diesel didn't take his eyes off the door. "Sir," he called out, pleasant as pie. "Give me a second. I'm going to come unlock the door." "Thank you." Diesel turned his head slightly. "Darlene, get behind the bar, now." She went. Diesel walked to the door. He did not unlock it. He stood 2 feet to the left of it, out of the line of fire, and said, "What's your name, sir?" "Lee." "Lee what?" A pause. "Pierce." Diesel almost laughed. "Pierce, like Annie Pierce." "That's right. My mama sighed. Diesel raised the shotgun. Mr. Pierce, I'm gonna need you to back away from the door real slow and put your hands on the hood of your bike. Silence. Then a soft voice, almost amused. I figured it was worth a shot. And the door exploded inward. Diesel had been a Marine, 22 years ago, before the beard, before the belly, before the shaved head. When the door came off its hinges, Diesel didn't flinch. He pivoted, brought the shotgun up, and fired. The blast caught Lee Renner in the right shoulder and spun him halfway around. Lee went down screaming. Diesel was on him in 2 steps. He planted a boot on Lee's wrist, the wrist holding a pistol Diesel hadn't even seen, and he ground the bones together until the fingers opened and the gun skidded away across the bar floor. Darlene. I got it. Darlene was already scooping the pistol up in a bar towel, careful not to touch it. Call 911. Calling. And call Ray. Calling. Lee Renner was flat on his back, bleeding from the shoulder, wheezing. Diesel crouched over him. You, Lee. Lee spat blood. Not talking to you. That's fine, you don't have to. Your brother in a truck on the highway is talking plenty. Lee's face changed. Dwight, is he alive for now? Lee closed his eyes. You stupid son of a bitch, he whispered. I told him this was too small a town to snatch her in. I told him there were people here. Yeah, well now you know. In the cooler, Emily stirred. Grandpa, she whispered. Father Boone held her tight. Shh, baby. Shh. Everything's okay. Everything's all right. I heard a loud noise. I know, it's okay. It was just a door. Where's my grandpa? He's coming back, sweet pea. He's coming back real soon. Emily blinked up at the old priest in the near dark of the cooler. Are you a priest? Yes, honey. Are we in heaven? Father Boone almost laughed. No, baby. We're in a beer cooler. Oh, she thought about that. Is that okay? It's perfectly okay, child. Okay. She closed her eyes and went back to sleep. Ray's phone rang. He grabbed it. Darlene. Ray, Diesel got Lee. Ray's legs almost gave out. Say that again. Lee came to the bar. He tried to pretend he was Sophie's brother. Diesel shot him in the shoulder. He's alive. He's cuffed. Ambulance is coming. And Ray Hammer just rolled up. We're locked down. Emily. Sleeping in the cooler with Father Boone. Ray let out a breath he hadn't known he'd been holding for an hour. Darlene, tell Diesel, tell him. He knows Ray. You don't have to say it. Tell him I love him. I'll tell him. Ray hung up. He sat down in the hospital chair. He looked up at the ceiling. Ma, he whispered. Ma, I don't know how much of this is your doing, but thank you. Down the hall, a door opened. Footsteps. Mason's boots. Mason rounded the corner. He had a duffel bag in one hand and a plain white envelope in the other. Ray stood up. Mason handed him the envelope. It was cream-colored. The handwriting on the front was shaky, looping, old, but it was unmistakably the handwriting of Ruth Callahan. The front said, to my son Ray when the time is right. Ray took it. His hands were shaking. Mason, step outside. I need a minute. Mason nodded. He set the duffel bag on the chair. He walked down the hallway. Ray sat down. He opened the envelope. The letter inside was 3 pages long, written in pencil on the back of grocery receipts and 1 page torn from a hymnal. It began, My dearest Ray, if you are reading this, then either I have passed and you have found my things, or a young woman named Sophie has brought this to you. If it is the second, then God has answered a prayer I have been praying for 26 years. Ray's hand shook harder. He made himself read on. My son, I have known for a long time that you had a daughter. Annie Pierce called me in the summer of 1998 when Sophie was 6 months old. She had tracked me down through an old neighbor. She was crying. She had been crying, she said, for a year. She said she had made a terrible mistake leaving you, and she did not know how to come home. Ray, I made a decision that day that I have spent every day of my life since questioning. I told Annie to stay where she was. I told her I would help her. I told her that you were in a bad way, which was true, Ray. You were drinking like a fish that summer, and that if she came home to you with a baby, it would break both of you. I was wrong, Ray. I was so wrong. I helped Annie for the next 20 years. I sent her money. I wrote her letters. I even went to see Sophie twice when Annie was scared and alone. I held my granddaughter in my arms, Ray. She has your chin. She has your stubborn little mouth. I never told you because I was afraid. I was afraid Annie would bolt. I was afraid you'd get hurt. I was afraid I'd done too much damage to fix. I am a coward, Ray. I am sorry. If this letter has found you, if Sophie is standing in front of you, then please, do the thing your mother did not have the courage to do. Love her. Love them both, and tell Sophie that her grandmother loved her more than anything on this earth, and that the eagle on the bar was not a coincidence. I painted that eagle myself in 1987 because I wanted my boys to have a home. I wanted my boys to have a sign. I wanted my granddaughter to have a sign. Come home, Ray. Take them both home. All my love now and forever. Your mother. Ray sat in the hospital waiting room with his mother's letter in his hands, and for the third time that night, he cried. He cried for the 27 years he hadn't known his daughter. He cried for the 6 years his mother had spent dying with a secret she couldn't let go of. He cried for Annie Pierce, who had gotten on a Greyhound in 1997 because she thought she was doing him a kindness. And he cried because somewhere down the hallway his daughter was sleeping off a concussion, and somewhere in a beer cooler his granddaughter was sleeping off the longest day of her life. And for the first time in almost 3 decades, Ray Callahan was not alone in the world. The eagle on the bar had not been a coincidence. His mother had painted it. His mother had painted it for this exact night. And somewhere across town, tied up in the bed of a pickup truck, Dwight Renner was about to find out that a dead woman named Ruth Callahan had outmaneuvered him from the grave. Ray wiped his face with the back of his sleeve. He folded the letter. He put it in the inside pocket of his vest, right over his heart. And when Mason came back around the corner, Ray Callahan stood up and said in a voice that was steadier than it had any right to be, "Mason, get the truck. We're going to the bar. I'm bringing my granddaughter home." Mason brought the truck around without a word. Ray climbed into the passenger seat, the letter still warm against his chest. Mason put the truck in drive. "Ray, yeah, you want to talk about it?" "No." "Okay." They drove in silence for about a mile. Then Ray said, "My mother knew." Mason glanced over. Knew what? All of it. For 26 years, she knew about Annie. She knew about Sophie. She met Sophie twice before she died, held her as a baby. Mason was quiet for the long moment. "Ray, I don't know what to say to that." "Don't say anything." "Are you angry?" Ray thought about it. "I was, for about 2 minutes. I'm not anymore." "No." "Mason, my mother spent 6 years dying of pancreatic cancer. She knew she was going. And she sat down and she wrote a letter to a woman that she'd never told me about. And she made sure that if her granddaughter ever needed us, the granddaughter would know where to find us. She painted the eagle on that bar, Mason, back in '87. She painted it herself with a stencil she made out of a paper bag. I remember it. I was 20 years old. I thought it was just my mom being weird. It wasn't. No, it was a lighthouse." Mason rubbed his jaw. "Your mother was a hell of a woman, Ray." "Yeah, she was." They turned onto the highway that ran back toward the Iron Eagle. The sun was fully gone now. The sky was purple above and black below. Ray's phone rang. He picked it up. "Darlene." "Ray, Sheriff's here." "Already." Hammer called him the second we had Lee on the floor. "He's taking both Renner brothers. Lee's in an ambulance on his way to the hospital. They'll post a deputy on him. Dwight's in the back of the cruiser. Tank and Preacher followed them in. Any problems?" Sheriff Dobbs looked at Diesel, and Diesel looked at Sheriff Dobbs, and Sheriff Dobbs said, "Diesel, were you legally defending this establishment?" And Diesel said, "Yes, sir." And Sheriff Dobbs said, "Well, all right then." Ray almost laughed for the first time in 6 hours. "God bless Sheriff Dobbs." "Amen." "Emily, still sleeping. Father Boone finally got her out of the cooler. She's on the couch in the office again. He hasn't stopped praying, Ray. He's been praying for 2 hours straight. I love that old man." "Me too." "How's Sophie?" "Sleeping. Doctors say she's going to make it. Broken ribs, concussion, dehydration. They want her overnight, maybe 2 nights. Thank God." "Darlene." "Yeah. I'm coming for Emily. I'm bringing her to her mama." Sophie asked. "I told her I'd do it." "Ray, it's almost midnight. The kid's asleep. Maybe let her..." "Darlene, that little girl has been asking for her mother for 12 hours. She will wake up tomorrow morning on a couch in a bar, and the first thing she's going to ask for is her mama. I'd rather her wake up in a hospital with her mama's hand in hers." Darlene was quiet. Okay, Ray. I'll be there in 15. He hung up. Mason drove faster. When they pulled into the parking lot of the Iron Eagle, Ray couldn't speak for a full 30 seconds. The lot was full of motorcycles, not 150, not 300, 500 easy, maybe more. They were parked in rows neat as a military cemetery. Their riders stood beside them in silence. Leather vests, gray beards, tattoos, patched jackets from chapters Ray recognized and in chapters he didn't. Men from Tucson, men from Flagstaff, men from Prescott and Yuma and Phoenix and Bullhead City. Some of them Ray had ridden with for 30 years. Some he'd never laid eyes on in his life. Not one of them was talking. Not one of them was moving. They were just standing there, waiting. Ray got out of the truck slowly. Tank was the first to step forward. His face was grave. Ray. Tank. Word got around about Sophie, about the little girl. Most of these boys rode in after the Renner brothers were already in custody. They rode in anyway. They said they wanted to be here. Ray looked out over the lot. 500 men. 500 men who had gotten on their bikes, some of them from 200 miles away, on a Tuesday night for a little girl none of them had ever met. Ray cleared his throat. It didn't help. He cleared it again. Brothers, the word carried further than it should have. The silence was that deep. Brothers, I don't have much to say to you tonight. I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for my granddaughter who is inside that bar asleep because of you. And I want to say thank you for my daughter who is alive tonight in a hospital bed because of you. And I want to say thank you for my mother who passed 6 years ago and who somehow built the lighthouse that brought them home. Ray took off his hat. Most of you never met my mother. Her name was Ruth. She painted the eagle over that door in 1987. She painted it because she wanted her boys to have a home. She painted it, it turns out, because she wanted her granddaughter to have a home too. Ray's voice cracked. Nobody moved. I'm going inside now. I'm going to carry my granddaughter out to my truck. I'm going to take her to the hospital to see her mama. And I would consider it the greatest honor of my life if you boys would ride with us. He put his hat back on. Tank was the first to move. He walked to his bike. Preacher followed. Then Mason. Then Cotton. Then Hammer. Then Diesel walking out of the bar, shotgun no longer in his hands. Then Slim. Then 500 men all at once swinging legs over saddles. 500 engines turned over. The sound was so loud it shook Ray's ribcage. He walked into the Iron Eagle. Inside, it was quiet. Darlene was behind the bar. Father Boone was in the office doorway. Emily was curled up under her quilt on the couch cushion, one little fist tucked under her cheek. Ray walked in. He stopped in front of Father Boone. Father. Ray. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to, son. Father, my mother. I know. You know. Your mother and I had coffee every Thursday morning for the last 2 years of her life. She told me everything. Ray stared at him. Why didn't you tell me? Because, son, she asked me not to. She said when the time came, the Lord would bring it around, and when he did, I was to make sure you didn't do anything stupid. Those were her words. Don't let my son do anything stupid, Father Boone. Ray laughed wet and broken. That sounds like her. It sounded like her when she said it too. Ray clapped the old priest on the shoulder. Father, I'm taking my granddaughter to the hospital. Will you come? I'll come. Good. Ray knelt by the couch. Emily, sweetheart. She stirred. Her eyes opened heavy with sleep. Grandpa, yeah, baby, it's me. Is it morning? Not yet. It's still night. Oh. Emily, honey, I got something to tell you. Something real good. Are you awake enough? She rubbed her eyes. Uh-huh. Baby, we found your mama. Emily went very still. You found her. We found her. Is she? She's alive, Emily. She got hurt. She's at the hospital. But she's awake, and she's asking for you. Do you want to go see her? Emily sat up so fast the quilt fell off her shoulders. Right now. Right now. Let's go, Grandpa, let's go. Let's go right now. Ray laughed. He scooped her up, quilt and all. All right. Hold on to me. We got a lot of friends waiting outside. He carried her through the bar. Darlene opened the front door. Father Boone followed a half step behind. When Ray stepped out into the parking lot with Emily in his arms, 500 motorcycles roared. It was a sound unlike anything Emily had ever heard in her life. A thunder so deep the asphalt hummed with it. The little girl's eyes went wide. Grandpa. Yeah, baby. Are they all here for me? Ray looked out over 500 men, their headlights blazing in the dark, forming up into a column that stretched the entire length of the highway. Yes, sweetheart, he said. They're all here for you. Emily stared. Then she lifted one tiny hand and she waved. 500 men waved back. Ray put Emily in the cab of Mason's truck, buckled her in, and climbed in beside her. Father Boone got in on the other side. Mason took the wheel. Behind them, the column of bikes pulled onto the highway. Ahead of them, 2 bikes ran Point, Tank, and Cotton, clearing the road. Behind those, 20 more formed a V around Mason's truck. Behind those, 478 bikes rolled 4 abreast down the highway to Jasper Creek General. At every intersection, the 2-point riders stopped traffic. Drivers who had no idea what they were witnessing rolled down their windows, pulled out their phones, started filming. By midnight, clips of the column would be on local news. By morning, they'd be on national news. By the end of the week, a photograph of Ray Callahan carrying a small blonde girl in a quilt through a wall of 500 bikers would be shared 7 million times. But none of that had happened yet. In the cab of the truck, Emily held Ray's hand. Grandpa. Yeah, honey. Is Mommy going to be okay? Yes, baby. She's going to be okay. Is the bad man gone? The bad man is gone. Both of them. They're never going to hurt you or your mama again. Both of them. Ray paused. He chose his words carefully. There were 2 of them, sweetheart. We got them both. Oh. Emily thought about this. Grandpa. Yeah, baby. Are you going to live with us now? Ray looked at the little girl in the passenger seat, the granddaughter he'd known for 5 hours, and he said the only thing a man could say. Yeah, Emily, if that's okay with you and your mama, I'd like that a lot. Okay. She nodded like it was the most natural conclusion in the world. Can we have a dog? Yeah, honey, we can have a dog. A big one. A big one. Okay. She squeezed his hand. Father Boone on the other side of her smiled and looked out the window. Amen, the old priest murmured. They pulled up to Jasper Creek General at 1:45 in the morning. The hospital had received exactly 0 warning that 500 bikers were about to fill its parking lot. But to their credit, the night security guard, a man named Wallace, who had worked a lot for 31 years, took one look at the column rolling in and simply stepped aside. Y'all here for somebody, he called out to Tank as Tank parked the lead bike. Sophie Callahan, Tank said. All right, Wallace nodded. All right then, pull him up wherever. Don't block the ambulance bay. No, sir. Wallace turned to go back inside, then he paused. Son? Sir. That little girl I saw get out of that truck yonder, is that her daughter? Yes, sir. Wallace nodded slowly. I got grandkids. Yes, sir. Y'all did right. He walked back inside. Ray carried Emily through the automatic doors of Jasper Creek General with Father Boone on one side and Mason on the other. A night nurse at the front desk looked up, opened her mouth to object, and then saw Ray's face and closed it again. Callahan, Ray said. Sophie Callahan. Where 3rd floor, room 312, serve our visiting hours. Ma'am, I know what time it is. This is her daughter. Her daughter has not seen her since 6 o'clock this morning. I need you to make an exception. The nurse looked at Emily half asleep against Ray's chest. She picked up the phone. Dr. Patel. Yeah, it's Linda. The Callahan girl's family is here. It's her daughter. Yeah, yes, sir. I'll send them up. She hung up. Elevator on the left, 3rd floor, room 312. Dr. Patel says 5 minutes. Thank you, ma'am. They rode up in the elevator. Emily was wide awake now, vibrating with anticipation, clutching Ray's collar. Grandpa. Yeah, honey. What if she doesn't recognize me? Ray had to close his eyes for a second. Baby, your mama has been asking for you for 6 hours straight. She'll recognize you. Okay. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. They walked down the hallway. Room 308, 310, 312. Ray pushed the door open. Sophie was sitting up in bed. The bandage was still over her eye. Her lip was still split. Her arm was in a sling. But she was sitting up. And when the door opened and she saw the little girl in Ray's arms, she let out a sound that Ray would remember until the day he died, a sound that was half a sob and half a laugh. and entirely the sound of a mother who had been sure somewhere deep down that she was never going to see her child again. Mommy. Ray set Emily down. Emily ran. She climbed up onto the hospital bed like a little monkey, quilt trailing behind her, and she threw her arms around her mother's neck so hard that Sophie winced and laughed at the same time. Baby, my sweet, sweet baby. Mommy, you got hurt. I'm okay. I'm okay, sweetheart. Mommy, you got a sling. I know, baby. Mommy, I got to ride in a truck with 500 motorcycles. Sophie laughed, tears streaming down her face. I know, baby. I know you did. I heard them from up here. Mommy, Grandpa says we can have a dog. Is that right? A big one. A big one. Sophie looked over Emily's head at Ray. She mouthed, thank you. Ray couldn't speak. He just nodded. Then he stepped back, and Father Boone stepped forward, and Mason stepped back, and the three men gave a mother and her daughter the privacy they had earned. Outside in the parking lot, 500 bikers stood beside their motorcycles in silence. They did not honk. They did not reverend. They did not holler. They just stood there, keeping watch. Darlene had followed the column in her car. She stepped out with 2 giant coffee urns and about 10 dozen donuts that she grabbed on the way. Y'all want coffee? She called out. There was a low murmur of yeses. She set up on the tailgate of somebody's truck. Men lined up quietly, took a cup, took a donut, and went back to their bikes. Tank sat down on the curb beside Cotton. Cotton. Yeah. You think Ray's all right? Ray's more all right than he's been in 30 years. Yeah, that's what I thought too. They drank their coffee in silence. Upstairs, after a while, Dr. Patel came into the room. She checked Sophie's vitals. She smiled at Emily. How are we doing in here? Good, Sophie whispered. I want you to rest. Both of you. Your daughter can stay here tonight. We'll put a cot in. Thank you. Dr. Patel turned to Ray. Dad, you too if you want. There's a recliner. Thank you, Doctor. She left. Ray looked at Sophie. Sweetheart, I'm going to sit in the recliner right over there. I'm going to be here all night. If you need anything, you say my name. Ray. Yeah, honey. Dad. Ray stopped. Sophie was looking at him. Her one good eye was full of tears, but her mouth was smiling. Is it okay if I call you Dad? Ray Callahan, 58 years old, 400,000 miles on a Harley, 2 tours in Kuwait. A man who had not heard the word Dad directed at him once in his entire life walked over to the hospital bed and kissed his daughter on the forehead. Yeah, baby, he whispered. That's okay. Bushem. He sat down in the recliner. Emily crawled off the bed and came over to him. Grandpa. Yes, sweetheart. Can I sit with you? Get up here. She climbed into his lap, quilt and all. She put her little head against his shoulder. She let out a long breath, the breath of a child who has been scared for so long that she has forgotten what it feels like not to be. Grandpa. Yeah, Emily. The men. What about them? The men with the eagle. What about them, honey? They really came. Yeah, baby, they really came. Mommy said they would. Mommy was right. Grandpa. Yeah. Grandma Ruth was right too. Ray closed his eyes. Yeah, sweet girl. She was. Emily was quiet for a second. Then she said so softly Ray almost missed it. Thank you for coming. Ray held his granddaughter a little closer. Thank you for finding us, Emily. And in a hospital room in Jasper Creek, Arizona at 2 o'clock in the morning, on an ordinary Tuesday, a little girl in a too big hoodie fell asleep in the arms of a grandfather she had known for 7 hours while outside in the parking lot. 500 men stood their silent watch until the sun came up. 6 months later, Sophie moved into the house next door to Ray's. Emily started kindergarten at the Jasper Creek Elementary School. Her bus stop was at the end of Ray's driveway, and every morning without fail, Ray walked her to the bus and waited with her until it came. On her first day, Emily rode to school with a biker escort. 14 of them. Tank in front, Cotton in back, Mason and Preacher on the flanks. The bus driver, a woman named Miss Janet, had been briefed in advance and she was ready. She pulled up to the curb. She opened the doors. Emily, wearing a brand new pink backpack and light-up sneakers, climbed up the steps. She turned around at the top. Bye, Grandpa. Bye, baby. Bye, Mommy. Bye, sweetheart. Bye, Uncle Tank. Bye, Uncle Cotton. Bye, Uncle Mason. Bye, Uncle Preacher. 14 grown men waved back. The bus pulled away. Sophie leaned against her father's shoulder. Dad? Yeah, honey. Mom would have loved this. Yeah, she would have. Grandma Ruth, too. Grandma Ruth arranged this. Sophie laughed. Yeah, she did. They stood there on the driveway, father and daughter, and watched the school bus disappear around the bend. Dwight Renner got 12 years. Lee Renner got 22. Neither of them ever came near Jasper Creek again. The Iron Eagle Saloon added a small brass plaque beside the front door that same fall. The plaque read in simple block letters, painted by Ruth Callahan, 1987, for her boys, and the ones yet to come home. And under the eagle, every sunset for the rest of Ray Callahan's life, at least one motorcycle stood parked, sometimes two, sometimes 20, sometimes on anniversaries 500. The eagle watched over them all. Because on a Tuesday evening in October, a 5-year-old girl in a torn hoodie walked into a parking lot and asked the meanest-looking men in Arizona for spare change, and those men gave her their lives instead. And that is how a little girl named Emily Callahan brought home a grandfather she had never met, a family she had never known, and 500 uncles who would, from that day until the end of their days, come running the second she called. The eagle was never a coincidence. The eagle was always a promise. And on that October night in Jasper Creek, Arizona, the promise was kept.